Hi guys, my name is Vivek Raina. I am CEO and co-founder of Excitel Broadband. Happy to be with you here.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. You may have heard this famous phrase that was first written by the great sci fi author Arthur C. Clarke. Imagine someone from the 1970s who time travels to today. The fact that we have internet everywhere will seem like magic to him. In this episode of the Founder Thesis podcast, we peek behind the curtains of this magic as your host Akshay Dutt interviews Vivek Raina, the founder of Excitel. Excitel is the David facing Goliaths like Reliance, Jio, and Airtel in the battle for getting internet to our homes. And despite such large competition, Excitel has continued to scale up rapidly. In this conversation, Vivek talks about the nuts and bolts of getting the internet to our homes and how he found a niche in a competitive market and managed to thrive in an extremely capital efficient manner. Listen on, and if you like such insightful conversations with disruptive startup founders, then do subscribe to the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming app.
My first job was in a broadband company, a wireline broadband company. I'm talking about 2001. And ever since that day till now, I have been just doing one thing, selling broadband in various companies at various levels. Now I co-founded this company, but that's been my job from last 21 years now, selling wireline broadband in the country.
You must have seen the technology change. Like 2001, you started your first job. I think at that time it must have been copper wires, right? Through which.
Yeah, it was coaxial wires, the wires that are similar to TV wires. The technology is called DOCSIS, Data or System Interface Specification, which means use existing cable TV wires to deliver broadband. So yeah, and the speeds we were delivering were 128 kbps, 256 kbps. Best package in our bouquet of packages was 512 kbps. Gold Premier, we used to call it. And now start from 200 Mbps. The basic package here at Excitel is 200 Mbps. So obviously technology has changed a lot from DOCSIS, then to DSL, then to LAN, and now
What is DSL?
digital subscriber line. See, what happened was that these technologies were developed in US and Europe. So they wanted existing wires going to houses to be used for delivering internet. And because it's not very easy to redo the wiring in the streets, in the homes. So in US, because cable TV was a big thing and cable companies were also massive, so they developed this technology called DOCSIS. And in Europe, telephone was big because every house had a telephone line. So they used telephone wire going to house relevant. And that technology was called DSL, and the one using cable TV wires was called DOCSIS. Yeah, but ultimately people realize that none of these technologies are going to scale with the scaling bandwidth and scaling technology. The needs of why you access internet changed drastically over a period of time. Initially, it was just data. Now it's mostly video. Data is now a small part of it. 90% of it is video. And both these technologies are not meant for such deliveries. And one had to rely fully on fiber. And now the gold standard in the world, fiber to home. So yeah, that's what we do here. That's probably what you are on in Japan, and that's what they do in US and Europe. So FTTH.
When did fiber get introduced to India?
Well, for core network, it got in very early. I think even in 2003, 2, 3, around that time, the company started using it for core network. But what I'm talking about is fiber to home. That's, I think, 3, 4 years back. Technology also developed. You see, fiber was there. We understood that fiber can carry huge amount of data and is not disturbed by, let's say, the signals or weather conditions because it's light ultimately going in. Unlike other technologies where it's electricity and electricity gets hampered by a lot of things.
How does light travel through a wire? Is there wire reflective? Because if it turns.
It's not actually wire. It's actually a hollow pipe with glass inside. So there is a phenomena called total internal reflection. Like you have diamond in your hand, light goes in and starts reflecting in the corners and it sparkles. Similar, you have a pipe and in pipe there is glass on all sides and you pump in a laser beam of a specific frequency, amplitude rather in this case, and it starts at a certain amplitude and it reaches the other side without much loss because it's light. And you can put multiple beams in the same pipe because multiple amplitudes can go. Yeah.
Okay, amplitude like light of like say white light, yellow light, they will have different amplitudes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so simply put, yes, you can say that. So what it does basically is that it increases tremendously the amount of data you can put in that small pipe hundreds of times. The limitation is only of the electronic equipment that you put in between to amplify or to receiver or to broadcast. So it was a game changer for the world of telecommunication around the world. And here in India, coming back to your question, we started using it I think, when people realized that it's a great thing to do and it started converting existing copper wires into fiber. And yes, but what we're now talking about is fiber to the home. That was very difficult to do because it's one thing to do to convert your core lines. It's very difficult and different to go into the streets, lanes, by lanes, go to every household with a fiber wire. So we had to look at technologies which are evolving around the world, and also the price points were important. Ultimately, something called technology called PON, passive optical network technology. There are various versions of it, GPON, EPON. They started coming and the prices started easing out to the extent that we could deploy it. So I think around 5-6 years back is when telcos in India took it on them. Around 5.5 years back, the technology is mature enough for our mass deployment. But around 3.5 years back, we started going fully on FTTH, fiber to home.
Like before we talk about the Excitel journey, I want to understand the origin of the idea of Excitel and what made you want to quit a job. You were at DigiCable when you decided to start Excitel. So what made you want to quit that job and start on your own? And what did you see as a gap in the market? And
Yes, it's a funny thing that India has been doing very well in mobile broadband and mobile telephony. We have 600 million users of mobile broadband, mobile telephony. 600 million. And do you know how many users of wireline broadband are in the country? It's just 20 million. Yeah. So 2 crores, is that 20 million? So somehow the penetration never increased in the country. And also nobody was talking about it because mobile was taking all the show. It was hogging all the limelight. And it was easier to do for telcos because mobile is what? You just erect a tower and the whole locality starts lighting up. In this business, you have to go to each and every household with that wire. 1,000 times more difficult to do this compared to mobile.
the scaling up is harder.
So it was low hanging fruit. Telcos did it, and also the regulators and the government was also looking at that. So wireline somehow took a backseat. But our penetration after so many years is still forget lower than the developed countries, forget Japan and forget Korea. We are doing worse than Nepal and Bangladesh in terms of penetration of wireline broadband. And there's a clear correlation between development of a country and penetration of wireline broadband. There are World Bank studies which show 10% increase in wireline broadband leads to 1% growth of the country. There's a direct correlation. So I think somebody need to kickstart the ecosystem.
But you were already in the ecosystem. You were already like part of it. So did you see a gap in the market?
So I was working with various companies. As I said, we started with Hathway, then went to Reliance, went back to Hathway, then to DigiCable. In all these companies, we make grandiose plans of rolling out wireline. But somehow the response never came. Somehow the plans didn't get fully executed. Somehow the funding was not there for this line because companies had other ideas. This could never happen somehow. And then in DigiCable, I happened to meet my co-founders. Now, these co-founders of mine are from Eastern Europe, Bulgaria. Now, Bulgaria is an interesting country. It is a European country, part of the EU, but the eastern part of it, more like Eastern people rather than Western people. And also, they were under the Iron Curtain till 1990. They were part of the USSR bloc, and everything was government owned and didn't have any private companies. Now, in 1990, it got privatized. 1991, 92, it started getting privatized, and my co-founders had started one of the first internet companies in Bulgaria, private internet companies in Bulgaria, and became very successful there. And ultimately, they sold it there to Deutsche Telecom, and they were looking for opportunities, and they came to India, and we exchanged notes, tried to understand the markets, and what they pointed out was very important. The fact was that he said one of the issues that you have, why the penetration is not increasing, one of the major issues is that you are still having very, very slow speeds, which means users cannot watch videos. This cannot be used for videos. It can be used only for surfing the net. Back then, I'm talking about year 2010, 11 when we met. They said right now internet here is a productivity enhancement tool, and Eastern mind is not so much concerned about productivity at home, work productivity at home. At home they want leisure, they want entertainment, they want relaxation, not productivity. So you are basically, that's why one of the major reasons why it's not scaling here. You are selling it as productivity on this tool. If you increase the speeds 10 times and users can watch videos and that is at home, then you have a chance. So that was one thing that sort of opened my eyes. The other thing was the nature of Indian cities, the nature of Indian urban conglomerates. What does it mean? See, 35% of all Indian cities are fully planned, but 75% have evolved on their own. For example, take any Indian city, big metro, you have 35% which are fully planned, properly structured, lanes, by lanes, or multiple multi-stories with shafts, all that. But that's not where 75% of urban Indians live. 75% of urban Indians live in those areas which have evolved on their own, lanes and by lanes.
The village which got absorbed by the city.
Exactly. Serpentine lanes and so on and so forth. And okay, in past, it was very difficult to go to these areas simply because there was no market there. Because to use broadband, you needed a laptop or a desktop, and these people would buy laptop or a desktop. You had to see laptop. But all that changed now. You need for consuming internet, for consuming entertainment on internet, all you need is a handheld device, a palm top or a tab or even a phone. And almost everybody in urban India has a smartphone. So that means these areas have opened as potential markets, and they're not focusing there. They're still focusing on to high margin areas. These two realizations were the genesis of Excitel. Is where Excitel thought that we need to make a difference. First and foremost, bringing the speeds, bringing the high speeds to the Indians, having data limits, because we used to have something called data limits in the country.
Fair use policy.
It was strangely called fair use policy, which was very unfair. It basically said that will penalize you for using internet. It didn't make sense at all. It was counterintuitive. Excited when we started in 2015, we never had any fair usage policy, unfair usage policy, I would call them. All our plans were completely unlimited. You can use those plans 24/7, keep on downloading, keep on watching videos, nothing will change. And the other thing that we did more importantly was the fact that when the speeds, normal speed in the city of Delhi, for example, was 1 or 2 Mbps, we started with 20 Mbps so that people can actually use video, HD video. They can see the difference between the TV and a real HD video. And
what was DigiCable doing? They were also they were doing internet through cable lines, or
they were doing through combination of everything basically. It was basically a cable TV company, and they had a division doing internet. And I was taking the part of that part. Okay, it was a secondary business for it. And also, come what may, and it was like that. There was no focus on any specific line. It was, let's do something about it. And let's do whether you have to sell bulk, whether you have to sell corporate, whether you have to sell retail, do it. Prior to 2-3 now standalone internet players, till today, there are 2 or 3 players which are only standalone internet players in the country. Standalone wireline broadband players in the country. One is ACT, the other is us. Third is probably no. There's nobody left really, because all of them have been brought by the telcos. So there are only 2 companies doing real companies doing the wireline broadband. The others are who have multiple business lines. So similarly with these cable TV companies, they were doing cable TV, but they're thinking now that my wire is going, let's use this wire for something else also. The real plan or vision was not there. So we did 2 things, Akshay. First and foremost was this speed, play with speeds that we did. Then secondly, we understood that this 30% of market, everybody will go there and let them play there. But we have to go to the 70% of the market, so-called Bharat rather than India. People who have been denied world-class broadband services by telcos. So we need to go there. But to go there, we need to obviously be very cognizant of the fact that the ARPUs will be much lower there. But it doesn't matter now that we're talking about 70% of the urban users, so you can afford cheaper ARPUs. So we kept the ARPU at around 500 rupees always, so that it is tantalizingly close to cable TV. Because every home, even in Jugli in urban India, has a cable TV connection. Why can't they migrate to this? And then also we sort of showed them it's a video consumption service rather than a data service alone. So that opens up suddenly. And the third thing that we did, and more interestingly, because it's very difficult to do wiring in such areas. It's very difficult to lay wire and then maintain that wire in such areas. We tied up with local partners in every such locality. And these local partners are local investors. They invest on the fiber and lay the fiber and maintain the fiber. While as everything else we do sales, we bring in our customers on board, we provide CX, billing and collection is done by us, so on and so forth. I mean, it's mostly online. These guys lay the fiber and maintain the fiber in the locality, in the specific locality. We bring core fiber up till their place. Just to give you an example, in Delhi, we have 700 such partners taking care of various localities, 700 localities of Delhi. Now we have around 6,500 kilometers of fiber, which we maintain. This fiber goes to those partners, office or a home or a shack of that partner. It's going there. And from that point onwards to each and every home in the locality, the partner lays the fiber and maintains the fiber. So with the partner, we share our revenue. There's a revenue sharing agreement for that locality running on that network. It's so-called Uberization of broadband we have done. So Uber model of doing it.
But tell me this, you quit your job and you had some savings, but I'm sure they would not have been enough to start a broadband company. I'm assuming there would be a lot of upfront investment in equipment, and I don't even know what is the supply chain here. From where do you source the supply of broadband that you further distribute? Tell me about that whole journey of starting up. And
I always wanted to do it myself, but then I found my co-founders in Bulgarian guys, Victor Francis and Nikolai Gorshilov. Okay, they also didn't have money to do it, but the idea was there. And once we had the idea, we started seeking out for investors. And ultimately found one investor in Bulgaria, and it started with basic investment of 1.5 million euros, which is peanuts in this business. But we started with that. But since the model was clever, in which this broadband business, 80% of all capex is last mile. Last mile means the last cable. Now this 80% is outsourced to many local entrepreneurs. So that's why we have been much more, I think at least 30-40% more capital efficient than any telco. That's how we started. And so we raised this 1.5 million, and we had promised them 50,000 users in the first year. Rather, it was our internal target, 50,000 users in the first year, and 30,000 users is what we had told the investors, promised them. Delivered 1 lakh in the first year itself.
And this idea of Uberization, the local entrepreneurs for last mile, this was there right from the beginning, or you stumbled upon it after starting up?
There was these local entrepreneurs like cable operators were being used by many ISPs, internet providers, to deliver bandwidth. But in a very crude way. They were telling them, okay, this is the wire. I have brought the wire up to you. Now do whatever you want to do. You do the sales, you do the CX, you do everything. Now these guys have no freaking idea what sale means, what CX means, what proper customer onboarding and handling means. So yeah, we sort of made it much better. And it has been an interesting journey ever since. From those 1 lakh users the first month, now we have around 7.5.
So in 1 month, how did you get 1 lakh users in a month's time?
In a year, not a month.
In a year, sorry. How did you do that? What was the customer acquisition strategy? And
door-to-door sales. We have door-to-door sales forces who do door knocking, pamphleting, intercepting customer on the street, and so forth. Very difficult to make them understand that 20 Mbps speed is possible. All the wireline providers are giving 1 or 2 Mbps. Mobile was giving 256 Mbps. Suddenly you're telling them for 500 rupees you get 20 Mbps of speed. They don't believe you. They say, no, you're lying. They say, to check. Don't check, you're lying, you're a liar. But once people realize that it's really possible and we're giving those speeds and there's no fair usage policy, it sold like hotcakes in the first year. Yeah.
The product itself was so much better than the alternative that it sold.
The competitors didn't know what to do. What I hate them. What is it? What are they talking about? How do they make money? How is it possible? But yes, then obviously they started learning second, third year onwards.
And how do you make money? Tell me the supply chain for internet. You are receiving that bandwidth, or I don't know what, but you're receiving that bandwidth which you're further supplying. So
yeah, it's interesting that what you buy basically is just 10 to 15% of what you sell, because you buy international minutes, international capacity from a gateway provider. Because in the country, there are just 2-3 gateway providers. You buy capacity from them. That's just 10 to 15% of what the users get. But then because you make peering arrangements with all country providers. So for example, Google would sit in your cache, would sit in your data center. They will say that I want to be nearer to my user, and I don't depend on the international routes. I want to sit inside your room. If you're big enough and you have enough users, they come and sit in they pair with you. And similarly, other content providers, whether it is Amazon, whether it is Akamai, whether it's Disney, all of these guys want to come nearer to the customer. Netflix, everybody, they want to come nearer to you.
So they will place their server in your premises.
Yes, they will place their server in our premises, or in some cases, they will bring their own fiber in our premises to say, okay, just for their services. They may be in a city of like Bombay, which has gateway. They will be a sort of data center, and they'll say, okay, bring your fiber here and take my services. So something like that. So 90% of all traffic that is consumed by the users today is from these content arrangements that you have.
Okay. And one question here on these content arrangements. Is there a commercial angle here also? Like, do they pay you rent for location on your premises, or do you pay them something?
You pay whatever it takes to reach there, and they place servers in your data center, and obviously they'll not pay any rent for that. So nobody pays, no party pays each other anything, but logistics you have to take care of.
Okay, got it. 10% is what you are paying to the gateway.
Percent is to paying to the gateway. That's the international traffic which goes through submarine cables. So, for example, interaction like this cannot be done through caching servers. It has to be through international gateway. Yeah, but all video consumption, all content, OTT is through caching. All the whole of YouTube is cached. Most of it is cached. So that's how it is. And then you have your own logarithms in your data center, which prioritizes some traffic, gives proper packet-wise understanding of how you're going to maintain your services to the users. And then you obviously create packages for them, speed-wise.
Why do you need these algorithms? What would happen if there were no algorithms?
It's then more crude. For example, right now we have a video conversation and somebody is watching the, let's say, YouTube video, which is not cached, but is coming in internationally. So this cannot have a break. That can have a break. You understand? That video can come slowly because it's getting cached while he's watching. But this is live. So such prioritization needs to be done properly.
Or the video can go low resolution when the bandwidth is low, but the audio remains clear.
Exactly. Many such enhancements. Those are done. And then obviously you distribute it in packets. So obviously the billing information has to be kept there. And then you take it out from your data center through your rings across, fiber rings across the city, multiple fiber rings, which are basically self-healing, MPLS, they call them.
Well, what is a fiber ring? What does the word ring here mean?
Yeah, all the fiber you lay in a city has to be in a ring architecture. Because if it cuts from one place, there's a fiber cut, it starts working from the other side. You understand? For example, I create a ring, I lay fiber across the city in a ring fashion. And I have my points of presence on that ring everywhere, from which I run the partners. Now, if there's a fiber cut at one place, it doesn't matter. The ring will automatically go from the other side and connect the partner.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
All this is automatic and self-healing. So you need do that. So you do that, you create points of presence. From that points of presence, you connect the partner and put a device called OLT, optical line transmitter there.
What's a point of presence? It's like you're tapping into that ring. That's a point of presence.
That's right. Obviously, there are electronic equipments to do that. We do that. Then it goes to the partner's premise where you put OLT, optical line transmitter there, which is a core device for going to homes. And from that, various wires go and you can enter the homes then. And while you...
So it changes that information into something which can go through a smaller wire. Okay.
That's right. And then once you are inside homes, you put your Wi-Fi routers there and you're on.
Like from a P&L perspective, what is the P&L like for? So you said 10% is what you would pay as gateway charges, and the rest would be like cost of laying wire and all of that?
The biggest cost always is the manpower cost, because you have huge armies to sell. For example, we have 3,000 people. Right now, the staff strength is 3,200 directly employed people. And there are partner employees also, people aligned with Excitel as around 78,000. But yeah, people cost is the biggest cost that we have.
And this people cost is for sales or also for running the network?
Sales and CX primarily. These are the two biggest heads. People who onboard customers and people who resolve issues of the customers. CX means call center, chat support, so on and so forth. And also people who go and outsell. That's the biggest cost. And there are hierarchies there, so on and so forth. But then there are other obviously heads also, but these two comprise the maximum manpower.
But okay, you 2015 you started, right? So by 2016 you hit 1 lakh users and you had raised that 1.5 million. What kind of revenues were you doing that time?
Very difficult to judge. I think around 50 lakh 500 rupees was an ARPU, you can straight away say. So after that, we went for another round, which was 5 million.
Which year was that?
It was year 17 or 18 when we got the second round. Series B, we call it. So we took it to 5 lakh users with that. And then after Series B came the Series C, which was around 10 million, around 100 crores, which we have done like a few months back. November we closed it. And we are now at 7.5 lakh users as of today.
So basically, need for fundraise is to expand geographically. Like every new region you open up needs a certain amount of investment in laying the fiber and building a team and offices. And
Kickstart those operations, you need money. And after a year or so, it starts paying back. But then for that, till that time, you need to invest. So yeah, the need of money is to expand. You rightly got it. You can do some expansion with your internal accruals from the older cities. For example, Delhi plays a big part in that, but only in a small way. Because if you want to start a big city like Delhi, it can be done with the proceeds from Delhi. So right now we're in around 29 cities across the country. Major cities being Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and then the smaller towns around it. For example, in UP, we have around 10, 12 cities, right from Gorakhpur to Meerut. Lucknow, Kanpur, all the whole belt, Guntur, Vijayawada, and towns in that periphery. Currently, we have with Bangalore, we have Mangalore. So total of around 20, 28 towns, 20, 29 towns.
And what percent, let's say, for example, Delhi. So in Delhi, what percentage of the broadband market is with you?
Okay, Airtel has been doing wireline business in Delhi from last 20 years, and they have the biggest share. I think around a million, maybe a bit more than a million users. I think we have around 4 lakh users, 4.2, 4.3 lakh users, reaching around 500,000 users in last 5 years of our existence. Yeah, so probably will be number 2 in Delhi. So nationally, if you discount the telcos, Airtel and Jio, we would be 3rd or 4th in the broadband companies list.
And so essentially, like more than 50% of your current user base is from Delhi. Delhi is like your flagship location, so to say.
It was the oldest location. It started before anybody everywhere else. And we were slower to get a start in the south because we started Hyderabad in 2017 or 18. But traction is now coming actually from there because we're given the resources there. So yeah, I joke with my people here that we are a Delhi company with offshoots here and there. Now from last year, we're a truly national company. Yes, we just multiple engines pulling it.
What all do you need to do to make a city grow? Is it a lot of like hoardings and advertisements and marketing spend, or is it like feet on street? Or
see, because this is a hyper local business, because each and every household has to be connected to fiber. The marketing and sales is also very hyper local effort. You can be 10 localities, but not in 5 in between. So you cannot do ATL, you cannot do mass promotion on a TV or a radio or something like that. What you can do very effectively is hyper-local stuff, which is done through feet on street. Those canopy activities, those standee activities, local competitions, and so on and so forth. Pamphlets, the newspaper inserts, because we still have newspapers here. So newspaper inserts from time to time. So such things work here. But yeah, the entire effort is hyper-local. And now, obviously, thanks to technology, we have Google, targeted Google ads, targeted Facebook ads, because they can do for each ad real longitude. So that's also what we use a lot now.
Percentage of your spend, marketing spend is online, and what percentage is offline? Do you spend more on online ads or more on offline?
No, much more on offline, because you have a huge army of 2,000 people who need to be fed with these pamphlets. Without pamphlets, there's nothing they can do. So each person per day needs around 100 pamphlets to talk to people. So it's passive. It's like 80% is offline and 20% is online.
What is the unit economics for a salesman? Like, how much do you pay a salesman and how much revenue does he generate for you?
Yeah, so a salesman on an average earns plus minus 20,000 rupees. And the least you expect from him to survive in the system is one line per day. So it's at least 26, 27 lines in a month for him to survive in the system. Otherwise, performance improvement plans will kick in and so on and so forth. And he'll be sort of either he improves performance or he'll not stay in the system. They need to create one line per day.
About 300 new subscriptions annually, roughly speaking. So what is your flywheel? Is it just that keep hiring more salespeople and each salesperson will get you 300 subscriptions, or what is the flywheel for you?
There are two legs to it. There are two spokes to the wheel, so to say. One is number of partners. We call them ERPs, Excitel Regional Partners. Partner, I mean the local entrepreneur. And then the sales guy has to be mapped to the partner. And depending on the homes that this partner has covered, you designate salespeople. So each salesperson for around 3,000 homes, 3,000 homes. But depending on homes you have ready for service, you put a sales guy. So there's this map. Homes ready for delivery compared to a number of people.
So you need to do both at the same time. You need to increase your distribution through partners, and then you need to increase the sales effort through.
Only one will not work.
Got it. Okay. You're operating in a market with very well capitalized competitors. What makes you feel that there is a space for you to exist and thrive and grow? Or is the path forward eventually getting acquired by one of these? Or what do you see?
Simply put, as I said, that all these well-capitalized players, telcos, are primarily operating in this 30-35% of urban India, which is structured.
I think like Reliance is making that effort with the JioPhone to tap beyond urban India. And
As far as wireline goes, it's very difficult for them to envisage and under these territories where 70% of urban Indians live. So yeah, our game remains there in the Bharat section of urban India, in the places where there are no proper broadband services have been given. We're providing world-class fiber to home services at 500 rupees to these people. So that's the game and that's the mass we're looking at. Can there be a strategic tie-up with one of these players? Yes, whenever they see value in us, which they have started already seeing, because they're also starting their partner-led divisions now. I think both Airtel and Jio.
Okay, so partner-led division is like copying your model, the entrepreneur model. Okay.
Exactly. They are starting in cities here and there. But again, from their perspective, it's very difficult to do it because they are basically a telecommunication company doing it directly, now trying to patch partners. While as in our case, the whole ecosystem has been built to convert these partners into real franchisees. There's a lot of IT, a lot of technology that we put into the whole ecosystem. You see, the fundamental issue is that if you have 500 partners in Delhi, you don't want 500 customer experiences. You want one uniform customer experience. You want one delivery time. You want one resolution of ticket. For that, we have put in a lot of upgradations, a lot of technology which was not there because nobody was doing this model before. So the technology didn't exist. So we had to do our own coding. We had to put our own coders and create softwares for all.
So essentially, you have a lot of digital workflows to ensure consistency across partners.
Yeah, first and foremost, treating them as real franchisee. That these are the guys who can be your partners. So gamification of the whole thing, 4-hour SLAs. In our case, if you are there, if your issue is resolved in 4 hours, fine. If not, we'll give 1 day free to customer. Such is the level of trust on the and commitment on the service. It doesn't come easy. It comes with a lot of processes and a lot of legwork and then a lot of codification of those processes.
Like, give me some examples of what all work you've done here to make this work, to build an organization which is...
Yeah, let's start with the basic thing. Now we have, for example, in Delhi, 600 FACs, feet on street. Now, where are they? Where do we find them? Where are they selling? First and foremost, we have tagged them. They have apps, and on those apps, they can do sale. They can book a customer. Now, these apps will work only on one partner location for a specific person. When he is tagged, he goes out of that location, the app doesn't work.
And you build this app in-house.
Exactly. He can do sales from that app. He can do everything with that app. Similarly, apps for the partner staff, because partner itself is not working. He has a few more people. So they are also tagged in the system. We understand who's doing what, how much time is he taking to resolve a complaint. Partner also comes to know how effectively work is being done by his people on the ground. So it's all through apps and portals that we are interacting with each other.
There must be some customer app also where customers can raise issues or...
Exactly. Customer app also. And there's a partner app also. There's a FAC app also. Apps and portals are interacting with each other in our case, rather than just patching it up.
So the whole resolution could be digital without needing to actually talk to anyone. Like a customer could raise an issue on the app and the partner would get notified through the app that this is a problem. And
It is a partner's problem. If it's not partner's problem, he can do a self-check also. There is a system that checks parameters and resolve issue without anybody talking to them. And it goes to partner if only there is a fiber cut where physically somebody goes to resolve it. If it's not fiber cut, then we can take care of it remotely.
Okay. There could be some configuration issues and things like that.
All that can be done remotely. Now we have even artificial intelligence, which tells us what is happening inside a customer's home, in the sense that how many devices are connected to the Wi-Fi, whether it's a Samsung phone, a Sony TV, or an Apple MacBook. Which one is getting how much bandwidth? Where is the issue? Is the issue location of the router, or the person is not sitting on a proper place to get the device, signals, so on and so forth.
Do you think you'll have more success in the tier 2 towns that you have opened up in, considering that metro cities are like all the telcos are also going after metro city audience?
The fundamental assumption is the same, that whether in metro or in small city, the Indian nature of Indian city is the same. 30% organized, 30% high ARPU, and 70% mass, and 70% unorganized. And so metros as well as non-metros have same. Any small city in India, you have nagars, Rajiv Nagar, Indira Nagar, Jawahar Nagar, and all that. And then you have old names, which has like 70% people live there in old names. Yeah.
Like your Jabrutpur and all these places in
Shadra, Uttam Nagar, it's full. That's where people live.
But where do you see your growth coming from? Is it your growth will come more from non-metro or more from metro? Or
see, the initial growth is always from a metro, but once you're strong in a metro, you go to nearby towns. For example, when we were strong in Delhi, and now we have around 10 odd towns in UP. But for that to happen, you need to cover and capture nearby metro first. And that's how people from the other metro, other smaller towns, because they look up to the metro, nearby metro. North look up to Delhi, people in the west look up to Bombay, people in south look up to Chennai, so on and so forth. So you need to have metro first, and then you need to go to smaller towns.
And so you're currently at about 7.5 lakh subscribers. What's your roadmap? Like, do you have
At the end of the year, we need to, in any case, reach 1 million. And that's what we have promised investors, and we deliver that. And by the end of 2023, 2024, mid will be 2 million users.
So about 10% of the broadband to home, like fixed line to home market will be with you by end of 2023.
Yeah, it will grow also till that time. So yeah.
And so what's your long-term vision for this? Do you look at eventually getting acquired or eventually going for an IPO, or from that perspective?
Both options are open, Akshay. If some bigger entity wants to keep the model, keep the basic principles in place, and give a bigger platform for us to open 1,000 cities tomorrow, why not? And that will be one way, strategic tie-ups. And the other is IPO, obviously. So these are the two options in front of us.
What is the investor interest for this space, broadband to home?
Not much, unfortunately, in the sense, at least in this country, because the reliance is there. So everybody thinks that they're going to sort of take everything. We have to make them understand it's wireline, it's not mobile. And wireline is 1,000 times more complicated to do, even for reliance. So it's not very hot in that sense.
Would 5G be a viable alternative to broadband to home? Would 5G give similar speeds? Or
you see, any 5G, 4G, 3G, any G, for that matter, either mobile technologies. And mobile technologies mean they're very good when you're on the move, on the go. It works perfectly all right. But as soon as you enter home, it doesn't. It starts having problems. And the problem is that the higher you go in frequency, the more would be the problem. You see, when we used to have 2G, mobiles used to work very well inside homes also. Then came 3G, started getting worse off. Then 4G is very bad right now in the country. And 5G will be worse. Because it's physics. You increase the frequency, the amplitude goes down. So the ability to penetrate walls goes down. So all these mobile technologies will be very good for on the go. You'll get a lot of speed for sure on the go, but not for home. The other thing that is there is the limitation of spectrum. Spectrum is the air frequency you use to get the data. Now you have one tower in a locality and a limited capacity tower, and then 100 people latch onto that tower. The capacity is divided by 100 people. So, for example, if we are all watching a match at the same time, the tower will go down because it will not work, whatever G it might be. Yeah. Here, you're getting a dedicated wire to your home, meant for you alone, and a capacity dedicated to you alone. And it works anywhere in the home because Wi-Fi router is inside the home.
So you're saying at scale, 5G speeds will be like 4G speeds once there is like mass level 5G adoption, simply because of the large volume of users.
Yeah, 4G is supposed to give around 60, 70, 80 Mbps. But what is that you get? You get 20, 25 right now. So similarly, 5G is supposed to give 100 something, but it will give you 10, 15 like that.
So broadband to home will always be faster, especially for video. And okay. So is bundling a part of your strategy? Because essentially, if you're saying video consumption is the key use case for broadband to home, then it would make sense to sell a complete package with subscriptions included in it.
Yeah, we're doing that. We're trying to do that. Though we don't see a great sort of use case there because people are already getting these OTT apps through mobile operators. And everybody who has a post mobile connection gets free OTT devices or free OTT services. Still, we're bundling it because if somebody wants to use it from our customer base, they can have it.
Got it. Amazing. Okay. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.